Hi and welcome to another Snapshot episode. Today we have Steve Randall, the CIO of Wiley Digital. Welcome.
How you going?
Thanks so much for joining us today. I know we've had obviously a quick chat prior and hearing a little bit more about your role and I suppose you've been there 6 months now, so been thrown straight into it, getting to know the business, and then COVID arrives. How have you found everything?
So, as you said, 6 months, you don't expect the phone call, right? Everyone needs to work from home and you've got 3-4 days to organise it. I'm new to the engineering field, so I was doing a deep dive into that. Luckily, we had planned an agile transformation for an agile ways of working, so we just had to accelerate it from a 3 to 6 month program down to 3 days, probably the fastest agile transformation I've ever run.
That's fantastic. Well, first of all, well done. And what did you find, in order for you to get through that, what did you find helped you the most?
Wiley build large projects or run large projects for large builds, $100 million infrastructure projects. A lot of programs that we have run have been in remote areas. So we already had a good technology base to be able to facilitate people working remote. The big issue was getting 150 people in 5 countries all working from home. And there's a big focus we have at Wiley on culture. So how do we keep that culture going? So the culture worked really well. And look, to be honest, and I made a post on LinkedIn recently, has anyone else noticed that change has become easier to make? And I think a burning platform, I think everybody jumped on board and saw this had to be done. The resistance was almost zero. So we were running sessions on how to break your work down, get it on a Kanban board and communicate with the rest of your team. Now, normally that can take a long time to educate people on how to do it and just to get their mental buy-in. And we're getting the mental buy-in within a 1-hour meeting from these teams. So I think the culture and the people made it easy, and the technology was already there.
Now, you've mentioned off the recording, something that was quite interesting that we haven't spoken a huge amount about. And, being in IT, we've spoken a lot about, the digital being agile and working remote. You mentioned some of the things that, you really needed to look into from a culture perspective and to make sure that we're okay around mental health and other sort of programs. I don't know if you can give us a little bit of information around, what are the things that you saw that would be beneficial for teams?
So straight up, the executive team knew straight away the first thing we had to focus on was being able to communicate with the rest of the organisation. And we focused on a philosophy of trust, truth and transparency. If you can't communicate, we can't worry about safety. We can't make sure people are safe in their homes. And that included mental health and just general well-being. So the organisation, we worked out quickly who was at a high risk, who lives on their own, who has family support networks, and let's get a communication system in place. When we already use Microsoft Teams, so we run a video conference at 12 o'clock every day. Every person logs in from all around the world, and it's an open, transparent conversation, initially from the CEO to the organisation with daily updates, but then all the questions come back to the CEO or the execs or to anybody. And that has helped a lot in giving the company direction, keeping the direction, updating on deals, enabling collaboration. We also work very much in horizontal and vertical groups. So you might have horizontal where you have engineers, and those engineers might work across multiple projects. So you need to stay connected to your engineering team, but you've also got to stay connected to your project team. So we organise daily huddles for those. So a lot of them, as I said, we did an agile transformation in 3 days. So it's not a full in-depth agile transformation, but we went back to the Agile Manifesto and we said, what are the key components that we can implement in 3 days? And it was the empowering the teams, it was collaboration. They were the pieces that we focused on to get going. And I think by having those meetings and forming a purpose and a why and a tribe, has really helped with the mental health as well as the productivity of the team.
Fantastic. That's brilliant. So looking forward, I mean, no one can predict the future, but from a forecast perspective, from a leadership perspective, what does it look like for you in the IT sort of role and with the business? Like in the next kind of 2 to 3, 4 months for you guys, it's a bit of BAU, you're doing big projects at the moment. Do you see any changes coming or any massive challenges ahead?
We're using this as an opportunity to drive a deeper collaboration within the team. We're putting in a lot of tools for sharing BIM tool, building information management tools, to get a deeper collaboration with our customers. So we're using this as a catalyst to drive quite a lot of change through the organisation. On the technology side, it just seems to be bedding in really well. We use Teams. It doesn't really matter what tool you're actually using. It's about having the right one in place for that time. For us, I think in the main focus is going to be on people. We're going to continually invest in people because we're seeing organisations that have purely doubled down on technology, and they're not getting the results that they expected. Sure, an email can be sent, you can video conference, but when you're video conferencing with your team once a week and you're sending them one email, I've spoken to people that have been home for 5 weeks now and have had 2 emails from their employer. They're still doing their day-to-day activities, but they're not enjoying working there anymore. And what's interesting, even with unemployment going through the roof and so many job seekers out there, these people now start looking for work. And I think this is a time and an opportunity for an organisation to really look after its people through technology, just on a people-to-people basis as well. So when you come out of it, you've got a stronger base.
I think that's a really good point around. It's quite easy for someone to feel disconnected from a culture of a business and from the business quite quickly. If someone joins a business and they're there every day, it takes a long time, for them to actually be disconnected and look for another role. Something's got to have happened. Whereas is that there's so much white space in between the connection, being connected to your manager, one day versus the next day versus maybe a week's time, depending on how busy that particular person is, that there's just so much room for thought and to think, hang on a minute, is this the right role for me? And I'm finding that at the moment because we do have a couple of roles on that we're working, and I've had two roles on that the candidates that my clients have offered have had 3 or 4 other interviews in this particular market. So, it's and both of them are leaving to do with they just don't feel that the role they don't serve a purpose anymore, number one, and number two is they feel disconnected. So it's been a very interesting process, going through from, what people were looking for before in terms of a role to now. Stability is number one. Definitely, people are looking for a company with stability and growth through this particular climate, which can be quite rare. But there are definitely companies doing it because there's definitely positivity in the market between last week and this week. So that's good.
Yeah.
So
we focus very much as well. Previous to all of this, one of the philosophies that means a lot to me is I want everyone to come in with a sense of purpose and to go home with a sense of achievement. And we've sort of changed that now to logging in with a sense of purpose and logging off with a sense of achievement. And if we continually focus on that, then the people in the organisation can only get better. And that's the results we're seeing. We're seeing greater productivity now and greater collaboration and cohesion than we did when everyone was sitting next to each other in the office.
That's fantastic. That's brilliant. So you're measuring productivity via outcomes?
A lot of the work through the organisation is done off Microsoft Project, so big Gantt charts. So we can track very closely where those tasks are at. And it's also, we're continually talking to people, and the feedback that we're getting, say from a management level, is I'm not being interrupted as much as I was. I can plan my day out now because we're having this huddle in the morning. I know what people are doing. People know what I'm doing. And I think it's just forced that level of collaboration, whereas someone previously might have thought they've understood what I was saying. or they just know what I'm doing through osmosis. And I think the disciplines that having to work from home has driven into the team has really upped that level of collaboration and communication.
Brilliant. So if you could, give us one sort of golden nugget that you would like any other CIO or head of IT to take away from this, what would that be?
Well, okay. A lot of technology people won't like this one, but it's focus on the people. Technology underpins the people. If you take the people out of an organisation, AI isn't there yet. You've just got a building with technology in it. We make sure that the technology tools that are in support the business, but also drive to the behaviours that we need. So if I was going to say one thing, focus on the people and work hard, as I said, to make sure that they can log in with a sense of purpose and log out with a sense of achievement. That's two things.
That's brilliant. No, that's brilliant. I actually wrote that down. There are a couple of things that I actually have written down from this video is, number one is trust, truth and transparency, which you mentioned. And the other one is log with a sense of purpose, log out with a sense of achievement.
Yeah.
So I thank you so
much. If you're achieving that, or even if you're striving to it, you're not going to get it right every day, but if you're striving towards it, it makes people feel valued.
Yeah.
And well, they are valued. That's the thing.
Yeah.
And we've actually focused on because we've got a very big supply chain as well. So as part of Wiley, we might have 150 employees, but we actually manage 30,000 subcontractors throughout each year. So we've gone up and down our supply chain to our suppliers, our advisors, and the supply chain, the subbies. And we're working with them on implementing a lot of this as well and helping them through it, because we've all got to get through it together. And now we're actually offering it out as a service to other organisations as well, particularly organisations that are focused on the technology. And now their staff, they're missing out on these opportunities because they're finding their staff are burning out, and they're missing that human-to-human contact. Yeah. We sent out a big pack. There's a company in South Australia that I think is doing really well, and they send a pack of ingredients to bake your own cookies at home. So, we sent everyone a care package of Anzac cookies, and we've all been baking Anzac cookies. And it sounds silly and it's a little thing. It keeps the team together.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. That's actually a really good idea. I'm going to write that one down too. It is. It's very easy to be caught up in what is happening from an economic point of view. And it's very important to obviously, keep ahead of that if you can. But you're right. It's sometimes it can actually take over. Just, financially worrying about the cash flow of the business and what the direction is, that you do forget about your people. And it's important to be able to bring them up to the same level of concern as, whatever else you think about as a leader of a business and moving that business forward, to be able to protect them anyway. That's so right. It's just giving that consideration.
If you're not communicating the issues of the business, people will guess, and they'll probably guess that it's worse than what it really is. So by engaging everyone and being completely open about it, it calms everybody down. Everyone's like, okay, we get this, and here's the plan we're going to do to attack it. And it's almost an over-communication. If you went back to how we communicated previously, we're probably over-communicating now, but I think it's becoming the norm. Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how what happens after this all, and the way we communicate and the way we work. So we're watching this space. But listen, thank you so much for being with us today. And I will be circling back, as I've said on all my videos, in the next couple of months to see where you're at and how your team's going.
Lovely. Fantastic. We'll be thriving.
Yes. Thanks so much.
Okay. Thanks for your time. See you later.